welcome back to That Fiction Life. We have not done a TV show discussion or a review in a long time, mostly because I have just been binging things that I've already seen. So I spent my whole entire Thursday, which was the 5th of December, watching V-Wars, which is Ian Somerhalder's new vampire show from Netflix. You all know by now, I absolutely adore Ian Somerhalder. His most prominent role, of course, has been Damon from The Vampire Diaries, and you all know that's my favourite TV show of all time. I even went to meet him at Comic-Con this year, had the best interaction with him. If you would like to hear me talk about that in more details, I will link my vlog from Comic-Con as well as my Vampire Diaries discussion. This video will be spoiler free, so please do not worry about any plot spoilers. Of course I will be talking about characters, but not what happens to them. This has been on my radar ever since Ian said that he was going to be starring in it as a doctor slash researcher, so we were all ready for that. And of course vampires are my favourite paranormal creature. So then I bought myself the book because, if you are not aware, the show is based on the series by Jonathan Mayberry. I've not read too much of the book, I'm only about 100 pages in. So as I was watching, I was making notes in my Game of Thrones notebook, which I kind of want to burn after last season, but it's pretty, so I still use it. Let's talk about the premise, first of all. The whole story revolves around Dr. Luther Swan and his best friend Michael, who take an urgent trip to the Arctic. And they are exposed to a deadly virus, which lands them in quarantine. Now, because this is something that they have no idea what it is, they give them the all clear, and they look pretty healthy. Nothing to worry about until this thing starts spreading, and this goes so deep into the science of vampirism, which I think was something that I was not expecting to be such a prominent part of this series. When you look at vampires in pop culture, they're mostly perceived as very supernatural and this paranormal phenomenon that has a little bit of magic to it because it's so surreal. But this version of vampires, we look into the genetics and the scientific reasoning behind your DNA and why certain people can turn and things like that, sort of in the way that it was done in A Discovery of Witches, which I think is the reason why this show can fall into so many genres. It is way more sci-fi than a paranormal show. It is very political. It's also sort of a thriller, kind of a little bit like an apocalypse, because the country is falling apart and the government doesn't know what to do about it and they're hiding secrets. We also have a journalist who is trying to expose the government and that they're hiding this massive secret that this virus is supposedly attacking people. I had trust issues with this show because every single character that we meet, apparently they have some kind of agenda and you're constantly thinking who's going to betray who. There's this other species of vampire, which I forget the name of, but it also begins with a V, and they aren't really fully turned. All they kind of do is feed on humans. So there's a few of those people that we love. One of whom is Mila, who is one of my favourite characters. She's sort of having to deal with these changes that she's going through without killing anyone. She has a really good plot throughout the book, sort of heartbreaking, but I love her personality. So these vampires have sort of identified themselves as Bloods, and they have started forming these factions. So there's a ton of characters there as well. You also have Luther and his son and his wife and his ex-wife. His ex-wife is being played by Nikki Reed, who is his real wife in the real world, and I adore their scenes together. Nikki's character, Rachel, she is a little bit crazy and I adore her acting in all of her scenes. She portrays sort of like a gone rogue ex-wife who still loves their son and is willing to do anything for him. We have to talk about the plot twists because I was not expecting this to be a thriller. I thought this was purely going to be a war between humans and vampires. There's quite a few jump scare scenes, and then of course weaved into that are the plot twists. I think that's the reason why I sat there not moving for a whole entire day, because I needed to know what was happening. This was not a perfect show because I think the script in the middle episodes particularly wasn't as strong as the first episode and then the last two episodes. I loved the way that everything was set up, but I think in the middle the plot lost its way a little bit and some of the lines were a little bit, you're kind of thinking, oh, you know those really awkward lines. Another thing that I was just not a huge fan of is the portrayal of vampires. The big kind of selling point of this series is that the vampire persona is supposed to get away from this sort of very glamorized version of vampires that we've been getting in pop culture. They're supposed to be monsters and a little bit demonic and look pretty disgusting, but they looked like werewolves or zombies or something, especially their teeth. I mean, the CGI was really odd to me for some reason, and they looked like some kind of underwater creature. They were just really scaly or something. I can't really explain it. You probably won't have a clue what I'm on about unless you've seen the show. But do let me know what you think of that portrayal, because I'm all for making vampires look deadly and horrific, but these just look like characters from Alien or something. Let's do a tally of characters. My absolute favourites are definitely Mila, Rachel and Luther. I mean, their portrayals of their characters was absolutely fantastic. Oh, just especially Ian. It's a very different type of genre that I've seen Ian in, because of course he has played a vampire when he's done quite a few thrillers, but I think just seeing him in a much older character who has a whole established family was a very different experience for me, and I particularly loved seeing his relationship with his son Des. The whole time I was just rooting for those two because their bond was absolutely incredible, and I loved seeing Ian in a more father figure rather than just this love interest that we're accustomed to seeing him as. Like I said, also Mila had a very great personality, and Laura was amazing portraying being a new vampire and kind of dealing with all of that. And I mean, just Nikki was iconic as a sort of rogue Rachel. It was brilliant. I really also adored Michael because he had to step up and be the vampire leader, because he is patient zero. He's kind of struggling between being loyal to his new species of vampires, but also his friendship with Luther. So he's kind of conflicted, and their friendship goes back 30 years. Oh, I just love seeing their dynamic. Their chemistry was perfect. Oh, also, do we not all love Agent Saint? He was probably my favourite non-main character. I really liked how applicable this whole plot was to the real life world, because the way that it's shown to us that they go to the Arctic, and because the snow is melting and the ice, of course that's due to climate change, and because this happened, this dormant virus became a thing. And this is actually one of the reasons that Ian became a part of this show. He was very interested in the environmental aspects of it. This is actually happening in the real life world. Scientists are producing reports that because of climate change, things are being uncovered continuously and we don't know what's down there. So just think about it. Yes, it might not be a vampire zombie epidemic that occurs, but just imagine what could have been down there for thousands of years that no one has seen because of all the layers of ice. So yeah, I just had a really, really fun time watching this. I hope we get a season 2 because they left so many open plot points, and especially that final scene. Things are brewing, okay? I want to know what they've all been up to. There is definitely potential for season 2 because there are 5 books and of course plenty of comics and graphic novels to do with the whole world of V-Wars. If I had to rate this, I would probably give it 7.5/8 out of 10, so it's definitely up there. It was a really, really fun thriller. But like I said, it did lose its pacing and the story went a little bit weird halfway through this season. But honestly, the last couple of episodes totally made up for anything that I didn't like midway through. So that's it for this video. I really, really hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and give this video a thumbs up. And I will see you next time. Bye!